Hello everybody, and welcome to this second lesson in this CAE speaking paper course. In this lesson we're going to quickly have a look at the general exam information, and then we're going to look in more detail at the structure of the speaking paper in the Cambridge English Advanced exam. So firstly, in the Cambridge Advanced English exam in general, there are 4 different papers. The first paper is the Reading and Use of English course, and I have another video course which you can access which focuses specifically on every part of the reading paper, and another course which focuses specifically on every part of the use of English paper. So have a look for those courses online. Then there is the listening paper. This is shorter than the paper before. It only lasts about 40 minutes. And again, I have another course which is specifically designed to take you through every part of the listening paper. Then there is the writing paper, which lasts about 90 minutes. There are 2 parts in this section of the exam. And again, I have another course which focuses on both of these parts. All of my other courses about these papers take you through the best tips, techniques, strategy, and give you good exam practice. So I really recommend you look for those courses, especially if you enjoy this one. And finally, we have the speaking paper. Now this is the shortest of the 4 papers, as it only lasts about 15 minutes. And there are 4 different sections. So let's have a look at this paper in a bit more detail. How long is the speaking section? Well, I just told you, it's about 15 minutes long. How many parts are there? There are 4 parts. And how many questions are there? There are no set number of questions. So the examiner can ask you any number of questions, but normally this paper will not last more than 15 minutes. So here are the different question types in the speaking paper. Part 1. In Part 1, this is really an exercise to try and get you comfortable and get you relaxed into this paper in the exam. So this will typically be like an interview. The examiner will ask you some general questions about you and your family. In Part 2, you get given 3 different photographs, and you need to talk about 2 of these photographs. And you have about 1 minute to talk about these photographs. In Part 3, you're going to be with another candidate. Actually, for the whole of the speaking paper, there will be another candidate with you. But it's in this part, Part 3, where you talk with the other candidate. And this will be on a particular topic, and there will also be prompts to help you with this discussion. And finally, Part 4. Part 4 is a discussion with your partner, and it will normally be questions from the examiner. And this is a discussion which is related to the topic in Part 3. So let's look in Part 1, the interview, in a little bit more detail. So, as I said before, in this part of the exam, in Part 1 of the speaking paper, the examiner asks questions about you. And the typical topics that they ask questions on are, for example, your interests and your experiences, your plans for the future, what you've been doing recently, maybe even about your English studies. How long have you been studying English? Do you live in England? How long have you lived in England? Etc. There may also be a question about your daily life, your daily routine, your habits. Okay, now let's have a look in a bit more detail at Part 2, the long term. So again, this is where you have to talk for 1 minute about some photographs. How many photographs can you talk about? you have to choose 2 from a choice of 3 photographs. So you're given 3 photographs and you have to choose 2 to talk about. And how long do you have to talk about them? Just 1 minute. And then I say, do you do anything else in this part, in part 2? And the answer is yes. You have to listen to your partner talk about their 2 photographs. So you are given 2 photographs and 1 minute to talk, but your partner, or the person who is also doing the exam, the other exam candidate, is also given 3 photographs, and they also have to talk about 2 of them. And you have to listen to what your other candidate is saying, because at the end of what they've been saying, you have about 30 seconds to answer a question related to the other candidate's photographs. So make sure that you listen to what the other candidate is saying, because you will be asked a question on that. Okay, and let's have a look at part 3 in a bit more detail, the collaborative task. How long is the collaborative task? Well, it's about 2 or 3 minutes long. And if there are 2 of you, that means you have about 1 minute talking time each. Do you do this individually? No, you do it with 1 or 2 other candidates. And how many topics are there? There is just 1 topic that you need to talk about. But this does have some ideas for discussion surrounding this topic. And how many of these little prompts to help you are there? There are 5. So you have 1 main topic and 5 little ideas to help you with your discussion. And I say at the bottom here, the examiners in this part of the speaking paper are looking for your range of vocabulary as well as your interaction abilities with the other candidate. Okay, so it's how well you can have a discussion with your other candidate and how much language you can show overall, which is why it's a good thing to try and relax and to try and speak as much as you can in this part of the exam, in this paper in general, part 1, part 2, part 3 and part 4. And finally, let's have a look in a bit more detail at part 4, which is the discussion. So what do you do in part 4? If you can remember, you have questions that are related to the topic in part 3. So the examiners will ask you questions related to the topic from part 3. If they ask your partner a question, or the other candidate a question, can you respond to what the other candidate says? Yes, you can. And that's a good thing to do. Again, it shows your interaction abilities with the other candidate. Okay, and here's a final quick tip for you before we end this video lesson. I say speak as much as you can. The more you speak, the more language you show, and that is ultimately what the examiners are looking for. They're looking for your range of language. So try and speak as much as you can, and I'll give you some good tips on how to do this in the next few lessons. And in the next lesson, we're going to be focusing in a lot more detail with some tips, technique and strategy and practice for part 1, the interview section. Okay, so thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next lesson. Bye-bye.